So this week's Torah portion is Mattot. It's Numbers chapter 30 to the end of chapter 32. And much of it's concerned with the making of vows. The Torah doesn't like people making vows. And the Torah enforces all sorts of restrictions about vows. The Torah lets men feel like they're in charge of the home. So the man, as the husband, has 24 hours to revoke his wife or his daughter's vow. And I think this is much more about the Torah allowing a man to feel in charge of his domain than actually giving men power. It's kind of similar to the Torah's approach to slavery, evolutionary, not revolutionary. It doesn't just ban it, it just makes it difficult. So it's difficult to annul the vows of your wife or daughter if you only have 24 hours. It makes me wonder, do modern men need to man up and take charge of their households? Because I was raised to believe that the man has the final vote in the home. He's the one in charge, because he is more rational and less ruled by his emotions. Remember, I had this modern left-wing atheist Jewish girlfriend who said to me, "You are so afraid to set limits on me, but when you do, I'm just a meek little lamb." So women don't respect it when you let them do what they want. They only respect you. They only feel safe if you step up at the right times and protect them from their own worst enemy, themselves. Remember, I had this girlfriend who was like speaking back to the cops for giving her a ticket for letting her dog run loose in West Hollywood. I had to calm her down and wind her down because she was just out of control with anger. But in general, I'm way too passive and weak in my relationships. I kind of shy away from conflict. As a result, women think I'm a pansy and they walk all over me. They have disdain for me. I need to man up. In most interpersonal conflicts, even with men, I just kind of shy away. It's rare that I step up and make a stand. Dennis Prager notes the Torah doesn't like people taking on unnecessary religious restrictions. All religions tend to asceticism, towards a hatred of pleasure. So one of the things I appreciate about ascetic Jews, as opposed to the more Lithuanian strands of Judaism, is how much they enjoy life. So Torah has guidelines for everything, even taking on ascetic practices. So if you want to afflict yourself, the Torah has rules for that too. Another point that this Torah portion emphasizes is the sanctity of speech, that words are things, they matter, they have power. You can create your own halakhic, meaning Jewish law, status, through vows. So I'm impressed when I meet someone who takes language seriously. I respect people who obey the laws of proper usage, proper grammar, proper spelling. I respect people who say what they mean and mean what they say. This is a great guide to someone's character. It means they're reliable and dependable. So it's one of the greatest qualities that a person can have. I find that the verbally slick are usually rascals. One mark of a good man is that he'll take trouble with his words, and he's willing even to be awkward and to struggle to find the right meaning to say what he truly means. So Moshe tells the Israelites in Numbers chapter 31 to take vengeance against Midian. But when they bring back the women alive, Moshe gets mad and commands that all the women who've had sex must be slaughtered. So it's funny, God doesn't order this, but Moshe does. So did Moshe get it right or did Moshe get it wrong? Also, it's easy to read the Quran and say, oh, such a bloodthirsty book. And it is more bloodthirsty than even the Torah, and let alone the New Testament. But plenty of things in the Torah are pretty bloodthirsty. So when Moshe commands the Jews to wipe out the Midianites, it does not say anything about making exceptions for the mentally ill. So nor does the written Torah make any exceptions for capital punishment for the mentally ill. So this freak in New York, Levi Aaron, who apparently tortured and murdered a Hasidic kid, Levi Klitsky, I think this guy should fry if he's guilty. I don't buy that you never execute the mentally retarded. If they're not smart enough to know that it's wrong to murder people, then why do they try to get away? Notes Dennis Prager. Why don't they just hang around the murder site and tell people, yeah, I did it? If they don't know murder is wrong, then that is an argument they should be executed. Because if they don't know murder is wrong, then they could do it again and again. So, kosher utensils are a far greater concern of Torah, Numbers chapter 31, verse 23, than they are for me, I've got to admit. I've got to face it. Torah is suspicious of the world outside of Torah, and things from outside, the outside world, the Goyish world, that want to enter the world of Torah, have to go through a trial by fire. Talking dishes, and we're talking would-be converts. A big concern of Torah, I didn't write it, this is how it is. Sometimes I wish it wasn't this way, but a big concern of Torah, keeping Jews separate from non-Jews. That's why there are so many laws about food. make it difficult. You basically can't eat at the home of someone who's not an observant Jew. So you can't just say, oh, I need to love my neighbor as myself and go out and bang a lot of shiksas. That's not the Torah's way. So how do you deal when your email goes unanswered? This is how I've come to deal with it, because it's not naturally easy for me to deal with that sort of rejection. I tell myself that no answer to my email is an answer. It's just an answer that I don't like. Don't like being ignored. So when you hear about a successful man or a rabbi dating someone half his age, do you have more or less respect for that man, or is your opinion unchanged? I think generally speaking, we tend to have less respect for men who date women half their age. Dennis Prager notes that when a man of, say, 40 years of age dates a woman who's 20, indicates that much of him is emotionally 20 years old too. Now, I've dated women half my age. I think it probably does indicate a lack of maturity on my part. There is a relief with dating someone your own age. Conversation is easier. Your concerns and life experiences are much more congruent. It's more difficult to talk to someone who's half your age. I mean, I don't have any other friends half my age that I hang out with and have deep conversations with. On the other hand, I do love dating women half my age. They're not as cynical. They're more open to learning from you. Like women your own age, they often have a wall up and don't think they can learn anything from you. Young women, they're not as hardened, not as cynical, they're more enthusiastic about life, they're less set in their ways, they're better looking. They make me feel young, they make me feel great. There's an old saw that when a man dates a much younger woman, it's not so much her youth that he's chasing, but his own. I dig how angry many women my age and older get when I date someone half my age. Many women bitterly resent this. I remember how much it upset my friend Kathy Seid. She was 8 years older than me. She would just say the cruelest things to me about the young women I dated. I think dating is the one thing in life that most people do not get better at as they age. They just get hardened, more cynical, more closed off.